officer that you're here. Will you please stand or raise your hand? We have Richard Canada, Anthony Langston, Sharon Wiltshire, Angela Abram, who's on the outside, Derek Pullins, and Regina Smith, and myself, Cheryl Smith. We have been together a long time, and we've been working in the grassroots to 360 Arlington, Grand Prairie, Mansfield, to inform political candidates and office holders of issues of importance to our supporters, herein also referred to as 360 Corridor community, to promote the national, state, and local Democratic Party's message of economic justice and social progress in the 360 Corridor community, to evaluate candidates for public office and actively support those candidates who best promote.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Katie Christie, coordinator with the Devon Allen for County Commissioner campaign. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it today because she is home sick with the virus, and she did not want to get anyone sick, so she sent her best, but not the germs. So we want you to visit VoteDevonAllen.com for more of her candidacy and her priorities on her campaign, which includes economic development, transportation, healthcare, just to name a few as well. So we're also proud to have grassroots support, but also we're proud to have endorsements from Congressman Mark Vesey, State Representative Nicole Collier, State Representative Chris Turner, and also State Board Member Erica Beltran as well. So again, visit VoteDevonAllen.com, and again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Syed Hassan, and I'm also running for County Commissioner Precinct 2.
All right, all right.
Thank you. I'm an economist with 3 master's degrees, and currently I work for a local corporation as a senior data scientist, where I'm working on a lot of machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence and some of those things. I have been published internationally with my paper was cited by several research and planning and organization papers and studies. I'm an activist. I have been a state delegate for pretty much all the state convention, Democratic state convention since 2002. I was national delegate 3 times in the last 12 years. I was in credentials committee at DNC last year, 2016. Then I was invited to White House for a briefing by DNC. So I've been involved with a lot of these candidates, a lot of the people who are running for office different times. And I have passion, you can see I have passion for democratic ideals, democratic platform. And I have been working on a number of projects that I worked on, including Civil Rights Conference, the big Civil Rights Conference 2003 that I hosted, where Martin Luther King III was the keynote speaker. I've done several conferences on women issues, including gendercide, which is a big problem internationally. I did one more conference on women where the conference topic was "Where is she?" That was women in conflict zones internationally. So there were a number of places where I have worked on progressive issues and progressive ideals. That's why I'm running for this office. I'm an economist. The county commissioner seat is all about budgets, and so I'm very relevant to this position. Thank you.
Can you tell us anything about your background?
Yeah.
Oh, did I miss that?
No, she didn't tell about Devin. Tell her about Devin's background.
Devin's background, what's that?
Okay. So she's been into politics for over 10 years. She worked with Wendy Davis. She worked with Chris Turner. She was his district director as well. And also, she has just a lot of background in, helping people in the community and everything. So she also wants to, make sure that, she do what she needs to do in Tarrant County, and also, make sure everybody has health care, which is very important. And so her background in the political arena is, very in depth as far as her being in the community.
Get the microphone. Can y'all hear me in the back? Someone said they can't hear back there. Okay, good. Okay, Mr. Hassan, we're ahead and start with you. We did ladies first last time. What do you see as the top 3 priorities that the county commissioner should be addressing?
Well, the number of things that the county commissioner should be addressing is, one thing is that we are very much behind. If you look in the Metroplex, Tarrant County used to be the leader in innovation. We are way behind now. I want to bring Tarrant County into 21st century. I want to start with public transportation. We must have public transportation system in Tarrant County if we want to have a 21st century, meet 21st century challenges. I want to start with public Wi-Fi system. There are so many countries and so many cities in the world that has public Wi-Fi. Kuala Lumpur has it. Ahmedabad in India, they can have it. Faisalabad in Pakistan, they can have it. We have few of our cities, Minneapolis and Philadelphia. Why cannot we? These are 21st century tools that are needed for our society. Our kids cannot finish their homework because they don't have Wi-Fi network, internet in their homes. Some of those neighborhoods don't even have cables for Wi-Fi. So I want to help our kids, our businesses, our tourism, our future. We need to bring our county, our society into 21st century. We have jobs available, but we don't have skill sets in this country. We bring people from overseas to fill those jobs. Why cannot we develop those skill sets in our county? And that's what I want to bring technology training centers in the county, in Tarrant County, where our kids, our future would be secure, where we will be competing internationally. We will provide a skilled workforce to so many businesses that businesses will come here in Tarrant County rather than we bring people from overseas to fill the vacant jobs. I want to attack the big issue that we have. Tarrant County is #1 in infant maternal mortality rate. Sorry. I want to do something about it. We are #1 for minorities in Texas, and Texas is #1 in the whole world. We have worse record than a lot of third world countries. We need to tackle that. We need to tackle the teenage pregnancy. We need to do something for our future, for our kids, and we need to bring the Tarrant County to 21st century. That's my passion, because there's so much goes on in politics. And that's why a qualified person who knows issues should be elected to the county commissioner seat. This is a very important position, because otherwise in Washington, in Austin, those ideological back and forth, that won't help. But our society, we must stand up, and we take care of our society. Thank you very much.
Now, you said 3 things, but you said mortality, but you didn't mention health care. I like that.
Our healthcare system, we have JPS, we have county hospital here, but how many of us in Southeast Tarrant County can have access to that facility? We pay taxes. We don't have that healthcare facility for our people in Southeast Tarrant County. I want to bring a county hospital, a branch here in Tarrant County, Southeast, or in the near future. I would like to provide, if that cannot happen, at least we give a shuttle services where our people can go to Fort Worth, because we don't have public transportation, we cannot really do those things. But we need to have access to good public healthcare system, because you see what's happening in Washington. They're attacking Obamacare. We will have more people who need to go to county hospital. We'll have more uninsured people. We must look at these issues and act.
Cool.
Thank you.
What do you see as the top 3 priorities that the county commission should be addressing?
Okay. So Devin, she will see these top 3 reasons would be, of course, economic development. So, of course, having jobs available for people so they can, have some type of income and, be able to live the American dream as well. Also, healthcare, again, that's the most really important thing for people to have affordable health care and have access to affordable health care as well. And then also transportation. Transportation is very important, especially in Tarrant County, which they have no mass public transportation, you know, to get to doctor appointments, to get to work, and get to other important appointments that's needed. So transportation is a really big issue that is needed in the Tarrant County.
The incumbent in this race is Matthew Hayes. Without being negative about Judge Hayes, what will you do differently to benefit your constituency?
Is that to me or to
Is that
Kevin?
anyone? The first one?
Well, since I'm number one on the ballot.
Okay, you got 2 minutes to talk about you and yourself, and then we'll get into the questions. I'm trying to speed things up, and I shouldn't.
As you heard, I'm Frida Porter, and I'm running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 7. I have a passion for this seat. This is my second run for this seat. I am a realtor by trade. I have over 17 years tenure in helping build home ownership in my community. I've also substituted for the Fort Worth ISD, so I've worked with children. I've also volunteered for the Arlington NAACP for tenants who couldn't afford an attorney in landlord disputes. So I volunteer my time doing that. I am qualified for this job. A lot of what I do as a realtor and a landlord representative, I have to work inside of the JP courts for tenant and landlord disputes. So I feel that this qualifies me to work in this capacity, and my passion for children and wanting them to move in a positive direction and in mentorship, I think makes me the better candidate. And as you can tell if you watch the signs, women, we bring extra to any position we hold. We nurture, we lead, we have families, we have the ability to juggle and effectively make change. So in order to make change, the definition is to make difference. And so I feel that I am an agent of change as well as you. Thank you.
Seat, Tarrant County. I'm running for Tarrant County District Attorney again. My name is Albert Roberts. John Derowitz, Carol Parker, Ollie Anderson, and Larry Myers. All of them, well, 3 of them were listed on your greet and meet today, but obviously because of illness, they're not here. I'm asking you all to support myself. I'm a lifelong Tarrant County resident. Grew up here, public schools right here, well, I say right here, Tarrant County, Fort Worth ISD, graduated from Dunbar High School, electrical engineering from Prairie View A&M, and I got my law degree at Texas Southern. I spent my entire legal career working at the DA's office. Worked at the DA's office over in Dallas County under Craig Watkins, worked under Susan Hawk, and I worked under your current Tarrant County District Attorney, Sharon Wilson. Worked under her up until August of last year. Why vote for me? Why now? What are you doing, Albert? I'm 36 years old and I have a passion. I have a passion for justice. And the passion I have for justice doesn't extend to just this part of Tarrant County or that part of Tarrant County, or this part of Texas or that part of Texas, or this part of the U.S. or that part of the U.S. It extends to everybody. And I stand for fair, smart, and accountable justice. And that type of justice is justice that we expect from our public officials. And if we're not getting that type of justice, we have to ask ourselves, why not? And in Tarrant County, I'll answer that question for you. I'll tell you, you haven't had a Democratic candidate for Tarrant County District Attorney since 2006. Problem number 1. So nobody's stepping up to the plate to say, let's have this conversation. So if we're not having the conversation because we don't have that person on the ballot, then let's have that person on the ballot. Now that you have a person on the ballot, why me? And I'll tell you, I stand for a number of things. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm an engineer. Before law school, I worked at General Motors out in Roanoke. I understand what it's like to work with people and understand people's lives. When you talk about diversionary programs, that's what I stand for. And when you talk about helping people and helping kids, that's what I stand for as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you, Mr. Rose. And I'm so happy to be here. My name is Nisha Matthews, and I'm running for candidate. I'm a candidate for Texas House District 93. And I'm not a politician. I'm an activist. This is my first time running, and I genuinely care about our issues here. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I grew up in Keller. I'm a product of the public education system there, Keller ISD. I went on to University of Texas in Arlington, so this is home. This is where we hung out. I got my undergraduate degree in economics, and then eventually, yes, I'm a macroeconomics person, and we have a microeconomics person here, so yes. And my master's is MBA from the University of Dallas. My work experience is in various different industries, in real estate, accounting, finance, mortgage. Higher education is the biggest chunk of experience, and right now I'm a business consultant, and as a business consultant, I solve problems. So I'm just itching to solve all of these problems that we have, because we've been doing things the same way, and we have to have new ways to update ourselves, to move in, to innovate, and to figure out things that actually work for us. Once again, my name is Nisha Matthews. Candidate for District 93, sorry, House District 93. I've been saying that so much, but yeah. So I hope I would have your support on March 6th to put me on the ballot in November. Thank you.
All right, my name is Allison Campolo. I'm a research scientist. I research diabetes. I'm also a teaching associate. I teach pharmacology, physiology, and histology to veterinary students. I'm a lifelong Democrat and a longtime Democratic activist. I am also running for State Senate District 10 to unseat Senator Connie Burton. Yes. I didn't grow up here in Fort Worth or in Tarrant County. I know that's a little bit illegal to say when you're here in Fort Worth. I grew up in Irving. My mom was a community college teacher, and my dad was a criminal defense attorney. And my dad would often defend the accused for free. So he would either not get paid, or he'd get paid in chickens or shoes or eggs or whatever people could barter, which meant that we depended on my mom's teaching salary for our family. And he decided, after working for folks one by one, he decided he would try to change the system in 2002 and started running for judge himself. And that's when I got my start in politics. When I was 15, I started volunteering not just for his campaign, but for all the other judicial candidates and other candidates and organizations I could along the way. And there's two things that I took from that lesson that have really driven me in my candidacy and in my community activism for the last 15 years, and that have been really interestingly endorsed and sort of corroborated in the 2017 special elections we saw across the country. And those two lessons were, number one, that we're going to have to work together. This is not about Allison, it's not about Steve, it's not about any one race, it's not about any one person, but it's about what we can do as a community with all of our networks and all of our groups, and everyone can do together. And the other thing is that we're going to be unapologetic in what we ask for from our candidates and the platforms that they're pushing. There's no need to have a moderate candidate right now. There's no need to elect somebody who's going to represent you part of the time. There's no need to fight for somebody who only represents you partially. You need somebody who's going to represent you 100% of the time, 100% of the way. So I know I'm running out of time here, but just an update on our campaign. Okay, I'm getting big red stop signs. Okay, well, anyway, thank you guys. My name is Allison Campolo. I'm running for State Senate 10, and looking forward to our questions.
Good afternoon, and I want to say a word of thanks to the 360 Dems for hosting this event today. I am Beverly Powell, and I am running to defeat Connie Burton. I'm running to defeat Connie Burton because her narrow ideology is not good for my children. It's not good for my grandchildren, and it isn't good for you or your children or your grandchildren. This last season that we saw in our Texas legislative session was one of the most angry and divisive and hate-filled session that we have seen in the history of Texas politics, certainly in the history of my lifetime. I am running because I believe that I am the most qualified person in this race to fight for your children, to fight for your grandchildren. I've spent 10 years on the school board in Burleson, Texas, fighting for the rights of our children to a strong public education. I understand what our kids need. I understand that we need funding, comprehensive funding reform. The way that we fund education in Texas is a travesty. It is time for us to fund education adequately and equitably. It is time for us to talk about high-stakes testing reform. And it is time for us to talk about the things across Texas that are important to everyone. Equality issues, the expansion of health care. And folks, those are the things that I'm going to fight for. Again, it's Beverly Powell, running for State Senate District 10. My website is beverlypowell.com. Thank you.
As James Rose has said, my name is Ruby Faye Woolridge, and I'm running for Congress, Texas District 6. I'm the only candidate running that did run in 2016, and I got 106,510 votes, more votes than anybody's ever gotten against Joe Biden in history. But, thank you. And that lets you know that I stretched out when nobody else was willing to do that, because that was a tall mountain to climb. And those of you that know me know that I stretched out because of my faith. My faith got me in the race. Those of you that heard me last Sunday know that I ran because I was coming out of church one Sunday and my faith said it's time to run. And I wept. I wept hard because I thought, who am I to try against a man that's been there 31 years? And I'm just a retired school counselor. I'm just a person who's worked for a Fortune 500 company as a manager, but I'm no match for something like that. I'm down to 1 minute. Let me keep moving. But what I did was I prayed and I fasted, and a week later I got a confirmation from a total stranger that said, you have the will of your Father, the courage of your faith to run the race that's set before you. And so I've been running ever since. And I can't stop until I complete the task. I am the mother of two. I'm also a person who's been serving in this district, in this District 6 for probably 25 years. I've served every way that I can. I've got 31 seconds left. Okay. I am running because I am passionate about service, and I want to be your servant leader. I want to represent real people and get real results so we can have real change. Thank you very much. My name is Ruby Faye Woolridge.
Hello everyone, my name is John Duncan. I am running for U.S. Congress District 6. I got into this race because I saw that our current congressman does not care about his constituents, at least the Democratic side of the constituents. I feel as though that to be a representative, you've got to make sure that you're representing all of your people. Not just the big business, not just the big corporations, not the big oil, not your party. You've got to make sure that everyone has a voice and a seat at the table. My background, I graduated from Texas High School, public schools. I went on to TCU where I got my bachelor's degree in political science. I then left Texas and went to Massachusetts where I obtained my Juris Doctorate at Southern New England School of Law. And once I got done with law school, I decided to go into healthcare. I went into healthcare because I saw so many people struggling to make sure that they had health insurance and that they could get the care that they needed. That's why I got into this race. I want to make sure that everyone has the same opportunities. They don't have to worry about whether they have to choose between rent and their medication, whether they have to choose of sending their children to a public school that is not funded or sending their children to a private school. I got into this race because I want to protect everyone. What our current administration is doing with the DACA students is horrible. They came here to this country to find a better opportunity, and that's why I'm running to make sure that they actually have that opportunity. My name is John Duncan. Thank you so much.
Before I talk a little bit about why we're here today and talk a little bit about 360 Corridor Democratic Action, why they're so important, one little piece of policy information for my Grand Prairie neighbors. I know we got a lot of folks in Grand Prairie here. A lot of you know that one of the issues that I have worked on for the last several years, both in Austin and locally, and a lot of you have been involved in too, has to do with payday lending and the predatory payday lending and auto title lending industry. And a couple of years ago, working with a lot of y'all, we got Arlington to pass a very tough ordinance at the local level that other cities have adopted around the state. And I'm pleased to say that Grand Prairie is considering the exact same ordinance this Tuesday in their city council meeting. And so if that's an issue, if you live in Grand Prairie and that's an issue that you care about and believe that Grand Prairie should adopt this ordinance, just like Arlington has, just like Dallas and Austin and Denton and about 50 other cities across the state of Texas, take the time to show up to Grand Prairie City Hall Tuesday evening, or shoot your city council member an email just letting them know that you support that ordinance, because they are very seriously considering it. And I've talked to most of the city council members over the last couple of weeks, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I'll just put it that way. But it's very important that they hear from people, because they're certainly hearing from the payday lending lobbyists. They're making their voices heard, because they have unlimited dollars to do that with. So this is important for our community, and I hope y'all will consider that. Now, that's the policy part. Let's talk about politics for a second. I think 2018 is going to be a really good year for Texas Democrats. And, we're here to talk about local issues and Texas issues. I know we got some candidates for Congress here. And I got to say, watching the news this weekend and this dysfunction in Washington, D.C., that we have a president, a House, and a Senate, all controlled by, or a White House, a House, and a Senate, all controlled by Republicans. And these guys cannot keep the government open. They can't keep the government functioning. It is such a failure of leadership. It's a failure of the most basic competency that should be required to be in elected office. And they can't do it. They simply cannot govern. And that's what we're seeing playing out in Washington right now. That's what I've had, unfortunately, a front row seat to the last few years in Austin, where the Texas legislature and Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick simply cannot govern. In Texas, we have, our public education system, depending on which ranking you look at, ranks 43rd in the country, and that's being charitable. We have the highest rate of uninsured of any state in the country. What did Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott talk about? They talk about bathrooms. They talk about imaginary sanctuary cities. They talk about new ways to restrict women's access to health care and reproductive choice. And that is becoming increasingly clear at every level. Republicans simply cannot govern. And I think the country and this state are getting tired of it. And I think people are ready, and if you look at the marches in Fort Worth yesterday, and Dallas, and Austin, and Houston, and all across the United States of America, I think people are saying they're ready for a change this November. Yeah. So I'm very excited about November of 2018. I think Democrats are going to win a bunch of races that even a few months ago, we wouldn't have even thought we'd have a shot at winning. But I think it's going to be a very good year. But it's not just going to happen. It's something that we all are going to have to work at. Between now and November, we're going to have to work to elect candidates and to hold Republicans accountable for their failures. And we have to get the word out. We have to talk to our neighbors, our friends, the folks we go to church with, the people we work with, anybody you can talk to and say, you have got to vote in this election. We have, everyone here knows this. If everybody who voted in Texas, if everyone who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 in the state of Texas turned up and voted Democratic this November, there wouldn't be a single Republican left in office in the state of Texas. There wouldn't. But we know it's not that easy, right? We have a huge drop-off from a presidential year to a non-presidential year. And both parties drop off, but Democrats especially drop off. We've got to change that. We've got to mitigate that drop-off, and we've got to get our voters back out to the polls this November, because that's how we pick up seats in the Texas House of Representatives. That's how we pick up seats in the Texas State Senate. And I think we're going to take back Senate District 10 here in Tarrant County. I think that's how we pick up county commission seats. And I think we'll pick up county commission seat 2 here in Tarrant County in Arlington, Grand Prairie. And that's how we pick up seats in the United States Congress. And I think we're going to pick up a bunch of seats in the U.S. Congress across the country, and we're going to take back the U.S. House this November. So, Before we do all that, though, we got to nominate our candidates, and we got to decide who's going to run and represent the Democratic Party in all of these races this November. And that's why today is so important. And Cheryl, thank you very much for 360 CDA hosting this candidate forum. It's always a great, it's a great educational event that I know a lot of people look forward to hearing firsthand from the candidates. And what I would say to those of you who are running and to everybody else here is just a couple of things. One, if you are running for office, regardless if you're running for the U.S. Congress or Justice of the Peace or anything in between, thank you for running. Thank you for putting yourself out there. Thank you for putting your name on the ballot and putting in the work and the time it takes to meet voters and talk to people and introduce yourself and raise money and everything else, because it's not easy. And it's something that is so important to our democracy. And for too long, we haven't had enough people running for office. We've had too many spots on the ballot that haven't had a Democrat running. We don't have that problem this year. So that's a really good thing. So thank you all who are running. And for those of you who are not running and who are here as volunteers or voters or people who just want to hear about the candidates, you may already know who you're voting for in every race, or you may be here to try to figure that out today. What I would say in either case is give all of these candidates the respect they deserve for putting their names on the ballot and putting themselves out there. And whether you support someone who ends up winning the nomination or someone who ends up coming up a little bit short in the primary, we all have to get behind our nominees after this primary is over and any runoffs that may result. We all have to get behind our nominees, because it is critically important that as Democrats we are united and we are together and we are determined to go to the polls and defeat the Republicans in November. Nothing else matters this year. Nothing else matters. So we've got to be together. And if you look at what's happening with Republicans right now, both in Washington but especially here in Texas, they have so many divisions in their party. You got the Tea Party, you got the social conservatives, you got the so-called fiscal conservatives, even though they're not fiscal conservatives at all. You've got all these different wings of the party, and they're having these brutal primaries right now for the legislature to try to wrest, different factions trying to get control of the Texas House. We can't ever let that happen to us. It happened to our party once a long time ago. I think we've learned our lessons from that, hopefully. So for whatever differences we have as Democrats, they pale in comparison to the differences that we have with Republicans and the work we have to do on behalf of the American people and on behalf of the people of Texas and of Tarrant County is too important to let any of those differences get in our way. So let's be unified. Let's get out and vote this March. Let's get out and vote in November. And let's go win a bunch of races in 2018. Thank you all for having me. Look forward to hearing firsthand from the candidates. And what I would say to those of you who are running and to everybody else here is just a couple of things. One, if you are running for office, regardless if you're running for the U.S. Congress or Justice of the Peace or anything in between, thank you for running. Thank you for putting yourself out there. Thank you for putting your name on the ballot and putting in the work and the time it takes to meet voters and talk to people and introduce yourself and raise money and everything else, because it's not easy. And it's something that is so important to our democracy. And for too long, we haven't had enough people running for office. We've had too many spots on the ballot that haven't had a Democrat running. We don't have that problem this year. So that's a really good thing. So thank you all who are running. And for those of you who are not running and who are here as volunteers or voters or people who just want to hear about the candidates, you may already know who you're voting for in every race, or you may be here to try to figure that out today. What I would say in either case is give all of these candidates the respect they deserve for putting their names on the ballot and putting themselves out there. And whether you support someone who ends up winning the nomination or someone who ends up coming up a little bit short in the primary, we all have to get behind our nominees after this primary is over and any runoffs that may result. We all have to get behind our nominees, because it is critically important that as Democrats We are united, and we are together, and we are determined to go to the polls and defeat the Republicans in November. Nothing else matters this year. Nothing else matters. So we've got to be together. And if you look at what's happening with the Republicans right now, both in Washington, but especially here in Texas, they have so many divisions in their party. You got the Tea Party, you got the social conservatives, you got the so-called fiscal conservatives, even though they're not fiscal conservatives at all. You've got all these different wings of the party, and they're having these brutal primaries right now for the legislature to try to wrest, different factions trying to get control of the Texas House. We can't ever let that happen to us. It happened to our party once a long time ago. I think we've learned our lessons from that, hopefully. So for whatever differences we have as Democrats, they pale in comparison to the differences that we have with Republicans, and the work we have to do on behalf of the American people and on behalf of the people of Texas and of Tarrant County is too important to let any of those differences get in our way. So let's be unified. Let's get out and vote this March. Let's get out and vote in November, and let's go win a bunch of races in 2018. Thank you all for having me.